Welcome back to Shirt Burger. Here for another episode. Got me, Adam, Caleb.
Hello, how we doing?
Doing good. And we wanted to talk about
A couple different subjects
a
today.
couple different subjects, and we're going to start with the BigFoot Information Center.
So when I was Googling this to get some information, all I found was just the tourist thing where you could go take a tour, get some memorabilias, but then there was also the FBI website.
Is that in like Washington or something?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
But you get that, and then you get the FBI website, and they're you basically instantly download a document as soon as you click on it. I didn't want any
who
part
the hell
of that.
wants to do that?
No, I deleted it several times because I thought it was just a quirk. So I clicked on it again, and it just instantly downloaded a second time. So, but what is this whole Bigfoot Center?
So, in the 1970s, the FBI was officially tracking Bigfoot.
Really?
Yeah, and there's, like you said, there's not a lot of information you can find on the internet about
Right.
it. But it's there if you look in the right places, I guess. And I found some official letters that were trying to identify unknown chunks of hair and skin. And it was a chunk of, basically like a chunk of dead skin with some hair on it. And it was 15 hairs. And
Did they analyze it?
They went to try and figure out what the hair was actually from, and included in the letter there was a picture that they said was Bigfoot.
Really?
And in the official FBI document, I swear to God. And a description. Let me see exactly what I wrote. The description said he's over 12 feet tall and 1,000 pounds. And they were asked years later because they couldn't officially identify where the fur came from. So years later, someone from a different organization was like, hey, let me look at that fur. Maybe we can identify it. And they were basically like, well, we'll run a test first just to see. And the FBI says, oh, well, it was a member of the deer family. It was a deer or an elk or something.
Really? Did it say what state they found this hair in?
It did, but I didn't write it down.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember.
So it turned out to be deer or elk fur of.
But it took them a decade to figure that out.
So
I mean, if you're finding hair in the forest, that's like the first thing I would think.
Right.
This is either deer fur or bear.
Yeah, I probably would have put it around bear fur too.
Yeah, but then 10 years later, it's suddenly from a deer.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I mean, you had 10
That's
years to do some research on it. I mean, nobody got curious after the first failed attempt at trying to identify it. Somebody had to have gotten curious and went, maybe we should kind of go a little bit further with this and retest it. Try to put it alongside some other samples of different species around.
Maybe we can dye it brown and make it look like I don't know.
It could have been a Yeti.
Yeah.
They just dyed it brown. Who knows? I doubt it, but...
All I'm saying is it's a little fishy that they would do it that way.
I agree. If it took 10 years, that just kind of... That's just suspicious. But...
Yeah.
That I didn't even hear about that. I couldn't even find it when I was trying to do some research on it. I couldn't find anything like that.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's official documents. They were pretty hard to find, but they were there. They were on a .gov website.
I didn't even find something like that on Wikipedia. I checked.
Yeah.
I didn't get anything. But yeah, no, that's interesting. I think I'd have to agree with you. That's pretty weird, especially since it took 10 years to identify a species.
It's suspicious for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to agree. That's kind of weird. What's your, do you think Bigfoot's out there? I think we've talked about it previously.
We've talked about it a little, and I'm not going to say that he's not out there. I'm not a genius. Like we said before, I haven't traveled the entire country and looked in every forest. Haven't looked at all.
Yeah.
But it's possible, you know. It's possible that there's just maybe it's a primate species that there's not enough of for us to really track down.
Right.
And like we talked about in our last episode, maybe it could be something with Neanderthal DNA. I don't know.
It could. Actually, yeah, that's not a bad point.
It's just crazy that the Native Americans have described it and we've described it the same way. Modern day civilization, modern day Americans.
And if you're going off of history books, Native Americans were here before our generation or anything like that.
That's what I'm saying. It goes all the way back to there. And they basically described what we would describe as Bigfoot. They described as the guardian of the forest.
Right.
And it wasn't just like... And Native Americans, like, they were up in Colorado, and then there's another tribe in Florida, and they described the same thing.
Right.
Those people weren't talking.
No.
They
weren't traveling that far of a distance. They had to have seen two different instances, I guess.
Exactly.
Either at the same time or just several years apart. Who knows? They might have traveled, but as far as I know, they didn't all get along all that well. I mean, there was wars held between Indian tribes.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's the fact that they didn't have a jet plane they could get in and go to fucking Florida.
It took them probably years to travel that distance. If I had to guess.
If they ever did.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think there's a pretty strong possibility that he is out there, or she, whatever.
Or was.
Or multiple, you know.
And the fact that it was seen in all different regions of the country by the natives, and now it's like, oh, maybe there's one here, maybe there's one over here.
Yeah.
That makes me think that maybe it's some kind of endangered species that might be extinct now, or very close to it.
I think if we're still seeing it, like 2024, I'd have to say it's probably on the verge of extinction, but
it just sucks because there's so many liars out there. They're like,
yeah,
I saw it. Here's
people
the
are
video.
doing it for just clout, pretty much. They're trying to get big and famous just off of a fake video.
Another thing that a lot of people say is, well, you never see Bigfoot babies. But if you think about wild animals, they don't just have their babies out in the open.
Right.
Especially something like a Bigfoot that you hardly see at all anyways.
Yeah. If the adults are hard to see, just imagine the child.
Because they're protected.
They're
back in the nest, or I don't know, maybe they fucking dig a hole and live in it. I have no idea.
Yeah, they could even be something like kangaroos where they got that pouch and they're just hiding in the pouch.
I never thought about that. But
it just kind of came to me, but I really doubt it, but who knows?
Bigfoot's a marsupial, people.
But, I mean, that's a possibility. I really don't hear anybody talking about it like that, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, and is it likely? I don't know. But at the same time, we don't know much about it at all.
No.
We don't know what Bigfoot actually looks like for sure.
No, because if you do see videos, either they're fake and doctored up, or they're like 1960s video cameras. They're grainy as hell. Can't see anything through them. There was a story I had heard about a Bigfoot experience that a group of hunters had experienced all at once. I think it was like 4 or 5 friends that went out hunting somewhere near Colorado, I want to say, but they all went out to this cabin. They've done it multiple years in a row, and one year they started hearing like a whooping sound, and people who are Bigfoot fanatics say whooping is like a Bigfoot call pretty much. So these 5 friends heard this sound, and they turned around, there was like 5 creatures staying on a hill staring at them.
Really?
And it freaked them out, so they all sprinted to the cabin. Well, as they were doing it, one of the friends turned around and they seen these creatures sprinting towards them, and they were catching up to them quick. Like, they had 100 feet between them and the cabin before they started. By the time they got to 50 feet, the creatures that were close to like 500 feet away were like 300 feet. They traveled 200 feet in a span of seconds.
Wow.
So they were super freaked out, and apparently none of them slept throughout the night because these creatures were throwing rocks and stuff on the door, scratching at the paneling on the outside of the cabin. And
See, but that's another thing that makes stories like that a little bit less credible. Not that it's not real,
right.
but like what wild animal is gonna pick up a rock and throw it at a window?
Well, that's the thing. Bigfoot, I guess, humanoid in shape. They have the ability to pick rocks up, I guess. But it's not like they were saying they were throwing boulders. They were throwing like rocks that humans could fit in their hands. But there's no way a human, unless they're all Usain Bolt on steroids, traveling 200 feet in a couple seconds. So they had to have had a pretty decent stride. And apparently there's a video out that you can go and listen to because one of the friends had a camera and it was like 1960s.
Oh, the whooping, or it almost sounds like a coyote, right?
Yeah. But apparently they gave it to somebody who was a credible videographer who listened to stuff like that and determined whether or not it was fake or not. And he told him, it was like, no, that's 100% real. It hasn't been touched at all. Nobody tried to fake it. It's 100% credible. But apparently there was a decent amount of damage to the cabin. They were all freaked out. And like we talked about in our last episode, they got called crazy plenty of times to where they just stopped talking about it. They don't even talk to themselves.
That makes sense too.
So, well, when I say themselves, I'm like, they don't talk amongst the friend group anymore, I guess, because neither one of them wants to remember it. So, So it's, I don't know. That's the one thing I have heard about Bigfoot that could be credible. And there was 5 at the time, like 5 Bigfoot creatures, I guess. They said it was Bigfoot. It could have been a completely different species. Who knows? It could have been a bear. Bears are really quick for their size.
And they do stand on their hind legs.
Yeah, and from a distance, you're going to think they're bigger than what they are.
Definitely.
So, who knows?
Bears are fucking huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially grizzly bears
and
stuff.
If I'm not mistaken, I think grizzly bears on their hind legs are like close to 9 feet tall. I think.
It might even be taller than that.
Might be.
I think it might be taller.
But you see a grizzly bear far enough away, and it's getting dark time. You're not gonna really be able to make out what it is from 500 feet away. You're not gonna be able to make that.
That
out.
is true.
So,
and they might even have their arms out, like
they could just have them sitting down like that. The whooping sound, it could have literally just been a coyote, like you said.
Yeah.
So who knows? Something to think about, I guess.
Yeah. That's all I really got on the Bigfoot Information Center. Maybe, let's see. You want to talk about the alien stuff?
Sure.
I want to do the other one last. I mean.
So if I remember correctly, you said the U.S. government wanted to reverse engineer alien spacecraft.
Yep, and the program was officially called Kona Blue.
Kona Blue. Okay, I didn't see that when I was researching it.
So, the government confirmed the program's existence.
Before we go too far into it, I think it's a pretty good idea. If there's truly spacecraft, why not try to make it benefit us?
But that's a note that I wrote down is it's odd that it would exist if they deny that aliens ever existed.
Right. I think
we've had footage and claims and stuff for eternity, basically, but it's been really popular since the 40s.
And another thing, I know the U.S. government just kind of terms anything that they can't identify as a UFO.
Yeah, well,
it could be a man-made plane, but they just don't know what it is or who it's from. That's a UFO to them.
And now they use the term UAP, which is unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Yeah, I did hear about that. That happened that was
pretty
back
recent.
when we were in high school, I thought.
Was it that long?
I think it was close to 10 years ago.
Yeah, it might be.
Right near
in the
end.
grand scheme, though, still pretty recent.
It's decently recent. It was always UFO prior, but I do remember them changing that name. I always just call them UFOs. It's just what I'm used to.
Well, yeah, it's just like I'll always call Pluto a planet, whether it is or isn't.
It was just something that I learned going through school, so I'm just gonna stick with it, I guess. And then that's probably where a lot of the terminology nowadays is people from previous generations just don't think like that. They just want to keep it the same as they learned it.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's like I learned that in 2nd grade. There's no fucking way.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think it's a good idea. And like you said, a lot of people don't believe that, or the U.S. government's denying any existence, but they're creating a program to reverse engineer stuff like this.
They're also working on UFO detection, and they came out with a sensor called Gremlin, and it's made for hyperspectral surveillance.
Hyperspectral surveillance. So
Yeah.
they're ghost hunting?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like if there's something interdimensional or out of planet, like they would detect it. That's what they're working on, and I think that's really fucking weird to do if you deny all of it.
Yeah, it's kind of
like if you were like, I don't believe in ghosts, you're probably not gonna gotta smudge this place. You're probably not gonna do that.
Right.
Why would you do that if you don't believe in ghosts?
Yeah. And I'd have to agree. To a certain extent, I have belief in ghosts, but I'm probably not to the point where I'm going to go around smudging shit.
That's what I'm saying, though. If you were like a diehard, there's no fucking way. Why would you smudge?
I don't know.
Especially on
That's just weird.
On a point to where you're spending billions of dollars.
Yeah.
To make equipment to detect the stuff. How can you detect something if you don't believe it exists?
And they just created a space force a couple years ago too. So
it's awfully fishy if there's no aliens.
Like stuff's starting to line up.
That's all I'm saying. It's a little fishy.
Yeah, I agree. That's something I never would have thought about. Like they've got Space Force and now they're going for the reverse engineering. So unless they've been trying to do this for a while.
Well, I think the reverse engineering specifically has officially begun in like the 2010s.
Oh, okay.
But there have been rumors of it since like the 40s. So maybe it's just like, we're going to have a program just in case that we do find something like this, just to cover their tracks.
Well, yeah, and what's the point of having a program when there's nothing for you to even practice on?
So, yeah, exactly.
They've got to have some that they're practicing on, and they're just kind of waiting for more advanced technology to come so they can work on that.
Here is another thing that I wrote down. They officially had reports of shadow figures and creatures at a UAP site, UFO sighting. Mm-hmm. They reported non-human biologics, and they had reports of shadow figures and creatures. And this is where it gets crazy. They hired psychics to study, quote-unquote, interdimensional phenomena believed to have appeared at the site.
Really?
That was on an official document. They wrote that shit down.
Were these all psychics that worked in, like, the FBI or CIA?
I highly doubt it, but I don't know. I don't know who they were, but they hired psychics to come check it out.
That's...
Why is the FBI hiring psychics?
Yeah.
If nothing was there, why would they? They're saying it was, like a weather balloon or something?
Yeah.
If it's a weather balloon...
And you're going to bring in a psychic for it?
Not 1, but 5.
Yeah, that's...
And why would you write down, pen to paper, on a report, interdimensional phenomena, shadow figures, creatures? Why would you put those words on a piece of paper?
Starting to...
Fucking creatures? You're going to write creatures and you don't and you say there's nothing
space
there?
dogs and shit coming out?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I don't know if you did that deep of a dive on it, but...
No, I didn't.
I started digging and it was a pretty big pit I was falling into. I was like, whoa! And it's like, people are wearing tinfoil hats for a reason.
So I've got, there is no verifiable evidence for claims that the U.S. government and private companies, have access to or have been reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology. Major General Pat Ryder, the Pentagon press secretary, said in a statement after reports released.
Exactly.
So they released the reports, and now they're trying to back up.
He's like, actually, those
they're trying to take
real
all
reports.
Back. Yeah, and there's private companies being involved. I don't even know what private companies. So I don't know.
Exactly.
This shit's just kind of
awfully fishy.
Yeah, there's just a lot that they're trying to hide, and they're trying to take it all back even after reports have gotten released, and it's just not working for them.
You know, another thing that makes it even fishier about the government lies to us, which that part we know. Have you seen Insidious?
I have, yeah.
So, you know the interdimensional travel that they do, what do they call it? Astral projection?
Yeah.
That's real.
Is it?
Confirmed by the government.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay, so during the Cold War, and if I'm wrong on dates or whatever, sorry, but
rough estimate.
Rough estimate based on, because I looked at the reports like 4 years ago or whenever they came out. Maybe it was 2. I don't know. That's like how we got out of the Cold War. They were astral projecting, going to Russia, finding out information, and at first they were like, well, maybe it's just a dream that happens to have. But these people were astral projecting. Not just people, government officials were astral projecting to Russia, going into facilities, obviously undetected because they're ghosts, basically, and coming back with specific, detailed information of these facilities and stuff people were saying in them and stuff. And they were basically unconscious spies.
Right.
It's just like crazy.
It's
like a 40-page document about how astral projection is real.
Really?
And how we've been doing it since like the fucking 70s.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I never knew that.
Yeah, maybe that's something we can do a little bit more of a deep dive on.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, actually. I don't know a whole lot on Cold War, but I know it was back when my parents were alive. They were obviously in the end of the Cold War, but
yeah,
that's interesting. I never knew that.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. That was some, like, I thought that was just for, like, the movies, like, the astral projection part. I thought that was just movie shit.
Well, that's what it was believed to be until they released documents saying that they've been doing it for 60 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty crazy.
It's a mind blower.
It's not just rumors either. They were like...
No, it's 100%.
And the way they released it was like, kick it under the mat, release it, but, like, don't tell anybody. But
right, they tried to slide.
Some people were paying attention.
Yeah. So pretty much how they're doing it nowadays. They're trying to release stuff without people really noticing it.
Yeah, and it might have been 2 years ago they released this.
Right.
So it's extremely recent for it happening for that long.
Right.
And it just kind of makes you think, like, that's interdimensional travel. So what more does the government have that we don't know about? Because that was 60 years ago. Yeah,
that kind of tying in with the next subject, like, a lot of people say wormholes they exist, and people are traveling through time and just teleporting with stuff like that. It kind of seems like that too. Maybe the government has a document sitting there waiting to be slid under the mat and being released on wormholes being real too. Who knows? I think that I definitely want to do a little bit more of a deeper dive on the whole astral projection.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Especially with something that dealt with pretty much the development of nukes and stuff like that.
Scary stuff, dude.
Yeah. That's insane.
And it makes you think, like, what more don't I know?
Yeah.
Because, like, that's huge.
Were they taking, like, pills to help them?
I don't know the process.
That's probably what we'll find in a deeper dive on it. But that's definitely something that we'll end up having to do more on.
Real quick, I wanted to shout out a friend for giving us the suggestion. We'll just call him Jose.
Okay.
He'll know who he is. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia experiment, which I didn't know anything about.
I didn't either.
I had never heard of it, but it's fucking crazy.
From what I do know, before we even started researching this, this was a movie based on true events.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I did know.
Allegedly true.
Yeah.
I believe it. I think it was true.
I don't know. I don't think I'm convinced 100%, but definitely will be doing a deeper dive in my own private time because this was actually very interesting. But it was basically a U.S. naval destroyer, and from the notes that I have, in 1943, this ship was made to be invisible with whatever technology we had back then, but it apparently teleported from one side of the United States to a different, went in between ports, and then it just ended up somewhere else. And the people on the ship were like fused into it, and it was kind of insane reading it. I didn't really know how to take it.
So, just a quick glance over my notes. I have that the ship was named Eldridge, the warship, and the experiment was officially known as Project Rainbow. And keep in mind, this is technology that they're saying came out in 1943, which is the middle of World War II.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy time. They were pretty desperate at the time.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody near the end of World War II was literally getting desperate. I know from a little bit of history that I remember, Hitler was trying to have a aircraft built that was able to fly from Germany to America and back and basically decimate America. And I don't remember what he called it, but he was getting so desperate he just wanted to attack mainland America and try to decimate it as much as possible and then refuel, rearm it, and then do it all over again. And he wanted to have several of these planes built, but these planes ultimately ended up becoming a failure. But
yeah, thank God.
He was like infatuated with destroying America, and I think Russia, China, Japan, even America, we all got desperate to either end the war early or just basically desperate to show other powers what we had in our arsenal and what we weren't afraid to do in order to win or whatever.
Well,
obviously,
it's like,
we won, but
it's like you have more like 15 Mike Tysons fighting.
Yeah.
With unlimited stamina.
Yeah.
Like, how far are they willing to go to beat the other Mike Tyson?
Yeah, I think
there's going to be some ears getting chomped.
Yeah. More than a couple. This was a really cool idea that America had trying to make ships invisible. Just imagine the power move you could do. You could literally hide a fleet off the coast of China, and this was made to basically keep them off radar. And that's I think that's mainly what they're going by, saying it was invisible, because that was right around the time radar started coming out.
Here's where it gets a little bit tricky. So there's a guy named Bob Frizzle.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know much about him, but I know that he says he worked on the project or something, did research on it, whatever. I don't know. But he says they got the tech from aliens. But I don't think that's true. What I think is true is what Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla were saying, which they were the ones who basically were making the technology.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying that it's an electromagnetic bottle that deflects radar. And the claim is that that bottle made it actually invisible.
Like, to the naked eye invisible?
To the naked eye. Like, you're looking and it's gone. Right? This microphone, poof, gone.
Wow.
So that's what the claim is. And it was basically they were doing interdimensional travel. And when they would do this, there would be a mist in the air that was rainbow colored, which is why they called it Project Rainbow, allegedly. and basically the ship would be gone, and then it would reappear, and through the interdimensional travel, obviously, it's not very safe when you just figured out how to do it.
Right.
And that's when the passengers' molecules would be combined with the ship's, and they'd be basically dead or disoriented, or they'd be fused to the ship.
Right.
Which is all alleged, but it's pretty thorough.
I'd have to, if I'm just going to go off on a limb, one, before I do say what I'm thinking, is that Frizzle guy related to Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus?
I don't think so.
You had to question it. You know?
I thought the same thing right away.
But going off on a limb, I'd have to say maybe they did actually find something. But I don't think it was like wormhole level. I think it actually made the ship invisible to the naked eye. And when it just reappeared like that, just kind of, it probably had to like recharge or something. And that cloaking device or whatever just kind of powered down, and they had to recharge it, whatever.
And that's definitely possible.
Yeah, but I don't know about the whole fusing part.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's what makes it so believable.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's
another thing. This is for sure true. All of the survivors that were like, they were on the ship, they allegedly interdimensionally traveled. When they came back, every single one was, if they were still fine, they were traumatized and basically put into nut houses.
I can't say I doubt that one bit.
Every single one of them was basically, they were like, you're insane.
They
you
were
have to
pretty
go
much
away.
institutionalized, pretty much.
Yeah,
well, not pretty much, they were.
Which, here's the thing. If they all were like, we were on a ship that interdimensionally traveled, and when we came back, there were crew members that were fused with the ship because of the molecules fusing, like, you'd probably think they were insane.
Yeah.
That's probably the first thing you would think.
I agree.
But for all of them to say that, and all of them to be insane, that's not likely.
The same exact thing.
That's not likely.
Yeah. No, I agree. Some actually had to have happened. Like I said, I went off on a limb with my idea. But if all of the surviving crew members are saying that, some had to have happened. And if I remember what I did read, I didn't write it down. They were supposed to be doing like a test out near the Bermuda Triangle for a decent amount of time from what I read. And a lot of people have their own conspiracy theories with the Bermuda Triangle. Obviously planes and ships. But who knows? People say Amelia Earhart disappeared there because she flew over it.
The Bermuda Triangle, don't say too much because I do want to do a deep dive into that.
Yeah, no, I don't have very much information on it, but
I don't either, but I know a lot of people do.
Yeah. It would be awesome to get somebody like that on the podcast just to have them sit there and explain what they do know. That'd be awesome to listen to. Because I've always been curious about it too. But
yeah. It's kind of a place I would like to go, not into, but I would like to see it from a distance.
Yeah.
But it's like in the ocean, isn't it?
Yeah.
I believe it's like southern Florida.
It literally, it's Florida, I want to say Cuba or Puerto Rico, I don't remember which one of those, and then somewhere in Mexico. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I know I'm wrong.
I know it's off the coast of Florida somewhere.
Florida is definitely attached to it. It's just 3 points of land, and then those 3 points connecting, like you connect the dots, forms a triangle. That's the Bermuda Triangle. And apparently tons of ships and planes just go missing there.
Well, I know there's like a really weird electromagnetic pulse there too. That part's confirmed.
Yeah. So
have you been to Florida?
No, I don't get out of the state I live in, other than where I work.
Florida's
and shit.
Pretty cool. Miami Beach is pretty cool.
I would 100% like to go.
Where's the furthest you have gone?
Montana,
that's
Mall of
cool.
America. That's the furthest I went.
That's not Montana.
No, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay, yeah.
Montana's I've never been there. I heard it's sweet though.
From what I
You're a cowboy?
remember, it was pretty cool. I was like 5, went to the Mall of America, and I don't remember too much, but it was just really cool to experience that. I definitely would like to go back out with the kids and re-experience it and be able to remember it.
I went to Mall of America, I want to say a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half. I don't know. I went with my wife, and well, it had to be a little over a year ago because my daughter wasn't quite born yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it was awesome. It's like 4 stories. They have roller coasters in there.
I remember going on a couple rides there. Whoa.
I didn't like that noise.
I didn't either. That scared me.
With that weird noise, I'd say we should probably wrap it up.
There was one thing I was gonna. This is something I'm tying into the whole.
Let me just double check, make sure we're not gonna die. Okay, we got like 5 minutes left.
This
and
is
then the battery will actually turn off.
okay.
Oh yeah.
This is my own personal opinion with the whole Philadelphia experiment. I don't know if anybody knows. I don't even know if Adam knows, but there was a similar event with Flight Santiago Flight 513. It took off and then disappeared off all radar, and then 35 years later landed with the entire crew and cabin full of people all skeletonized. And
they were skeletons?
Yeah. The entire plane was just skeletons. Nobody knows where it went for 35 years. They couldn't find it on radar, and then it just landed somewhere else on the opposite side of the world. It was fucking weird.
That is weird.
I
assuming it's like true, which is,
yeah, I don't know if it's true. It's
like most of the things
similar.
we talk about. It's like
it's speculation.
How do you know? You know.
Even the people who were working on the airstrip where it landed apparently didn't know that it was even coming because they couldn't see it on their radar, and then it just magically appeared and landed, and it's skeletonized crew.
That definitely does tie into what we were talking about too.
People are saying that it was wormholes. I've heard other stories where a plane took off, and then people lost track of it, and then a couple months later it comes back on radio saying, "Mayday, Mayday, we're running low on fuel," and then they talk to them, tell them where they can land, and then the crew turns the opposite direction. They go off radar again. That crew's never been heard from ever since. So people are thinking there's wormholes all over the place. I don't know. If you want to do a little more research on it, it's really interesting.
That is really interesting too.
Yeah.
And there's so many, I don't know how many exactly, but I know there's more than 1 or 2 instances of that too.
So I don't know. It's something to really kind of think about. It's pretty interesting.
It is.
But that was just something I kind of tied into.
That's something that's good to bring up, good to talk about a little bit.
I just figured I'd tie it in.
I wish that our thing wasn't about to die.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I had, so I think that's a decent place to wrap it up for now. We'll do a little more
more of a deeper dive. We'll get back to you guys on the next episode. Like, share, subscribe, comment, let us know what we're doing right or wrong. Thanks, guys.